Direct Connection is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you. Live from Maryland Public Television, this is Direct Connection with Jeff Salkin.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for tuning in for Direct Connection. 7 months after the death of Freddie Gray in police custody, the first trial of one of the accused officers has begun. Tonight, answers to your questions about how this emotionally charged case will proceed and what is next for the city of Baltimore. Joining us tonight are Andrew Levy, attorney and lecturer in criminal law, and MPT's Charles Robinson, who was in court today. Gentlemen, thanks to both of you for being here.
Great to be here.
Charles, what happened today?
Well, we began the jury selection process. We had roughly 75 jurors in the courtroom. They roughly half and half, a little bit more than half, are African Americans. I thought what was very interesting is there were several questions or polling done by the judge prior to any actual individual questions. One of those questions that kind of made us all pause was a question about whether or not you or any member of your family had any criminal activity. Either you've been
it could be a victim
right, or pending litigation, whatever. But guess what? Half that group had an interaction with the criminal justice system. And Annie, I don't know about you, that seemed very odd to me. And a lot of people were kind of taken aback by that.
I don't know. I think if you spend any time in the circuit court for Baltimore City, when that question gets asked, it is distressing the number of people who have either been a victim or a defendant or sometimes both.
And that's a routine question.
That's a question gets asked every time.
But this process today wasn't routine because most of the questioning happened not in open court, but in a conference room or judges' chambers. And in the end, Charles, nobody was actually seated so far.
What we found out at the end of the day is that they don't have enough jurors, so they're going to bring in a new group tomorrow, roughly around the same number, around 75 individuals. And we'll go through the same process again. Now, one of the things that was very interesting is the judge has said he wants this case to end on December the 17th. I had to tell you, the clock is running. And if you don't get a jury seated, you're going to be pushing up against that clock. But this judge is a matter of fact in everything that he does. To give an example, he's ruled against the prosecution, he's ruled against the defense. One of the key issues was, should we move this case out of Baltimore? And Andy, I got to tell you, a lot of people thought you can't get a fair trial, nor could you find a jury that would be seated in Baltimore.
Well, the thing that's so difficult about seating a jury in a case like this, it's not unusual in a high-profile case to have a lot of people know something about it and to have formed an opinion about it. But the judge, anyone who's ever been on jury duty knows that the next question the judge asks, well, notwithstanding the opinion you have, could you base your verdict on only what you hear in this courtroom? Most people are able to answer that question truthfully, yes. Mm-hmm. This case is different in the sense that you would need to worry that the jurors will, not only that they have an opinion about it, but that they may worry that their verdict will affect them or their business or their family in some way going forward. And that makes it a very unusual situation.
So that was the strongest argument for a change of venue.
Absolutely.
And the judge decided that we're going to try to seat a jury. And then see what happens. So, I mean,
sure.
is, so to speak, the jury still out on this?
Well, it is. And I think what Judge Williams is, he's going to try to seat a jury. I think he's going to try very hard to seat a jury. But he's also going to give the defense the opportunity to make its record and demonstrate why the case can't stay in Baltimore. So I think we haven't heard the last of that.
Jeff, the other thing is, he asked the entire jury pool, have you heard anything about the Freddie Gray case and the subsequent rioting and the curfew? Unanimous. Everybody had heard about this. The other thing is whether or not you had heard about the civil settlement, a $6.4 million settlement, and everybody had heard about that. Obviously, that's a big deal when you're trying to get an impartial jury. In other words, does that influence the outcome of your thinking? And we're trying to get through this process, so we'll see how it unfolds.
Well, would you really want someone sitting on this jury who was so cloistered that they had never heard about this case?
I thought about that, and I said, man, I don't think you want that person on this jury.
Let me remind our viewers, if you have a question about the Freddie Gray case, the trial of Officer Porter, you can give us a call. We'll have the number up on the screen. You can also tweet your questions. Our Twitter address is @MPT News. Why Officer Porter? Why is he going first when he wasn't one of the arresting officers and he's not the officer facing the most serious charges?
So in the timeline of things, he really came pretty much in the middle. No one knows for sure because the prosecution really is not talking, and it's the prosecution who made that decision. But the conventional wisdom seems to be that the state needs his testimony in the trials of the other officers, and that would be much more problematic if he had not already been tried.
It had been reported, I think, by the Sun that Officer Porter, the van, when Mr. Gray was arrested, the van drove around a couple of stops. They loaded in some other people and summoned help, another officer, to check on Mr. Gray, and that was Officer Porter, who, according to the Sun, I don't know if it was his statement to police, said to other officers that Gray needed help.
Yes, this happened during the process of investigating what happened. And there is actual tape of him saying, I asked Freddie Gray if he was all right. And he said no. And he asked again, and he said no again. He then went around, according to what has been said in both the press and allegedly in the investigative process, whether or not he instructed the driver what was going on. And he allegedly has said that, yeah, something's wrong with him.
Well, let me just say that the thing we do need to be very careful about, particularly at this stage of things, is to have some humility with respect to what it is we know and what it is we don't know. I mean, there hasn't been a trial yet, and presumably there are going to be things that are going to come out in this trial that have not yet been reported and no one yet knows about. And we really do need to keep that in mind.
How high is the bar to get a manslaughter conviction? That's the most serious charge that Officer Porter faces.
It's got to be proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It does not require a showing of intent. It doesn't require that they show that he intentionally meant harm to come to Mr. Gray, but there has to be a degree of recklessness. It's got to be more than negligent.
Hold on real quick, but in the discovery process, we learned that Porter's going to take the stand in his own defense. I don't know. I don't know if that's about rehabilitation.
Well, no. I mean, I think it's, first of all, it's dangerous when a defendant takes the witness stand in a criminal trial. Bad things can happen. But here you've got a police officer who has presumably is used to testifying, has a lot of experience as a witness, and I think the defense is counting on the fact that he's going to come off as a likable and a credible witness, that the jury is not going to want to convict.
And he may yet not testify. He doesn't have to.
He's not bound to do so. That is true.
Let's take a call. Baltimore County, this is Red. Red, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Oh, I was wondering what do you think the impact would be if you could televise the proceedings rather than the public being?
Fabulous question. Thank you so much for the call.
Well, you wouldn't be looking at our faces. I guarantee you that.
Or we'd be doing 24-hour coverage or something. You know, I mean, from a media perspective, sure. You know, open it up. Let's see pictures.
Well, actually, it is being televised. It's done closed circuit, and that's for those of us in the media who are unable to get into the courtroom. We are under very strict rules as far as the media is concerned. We're not allowed to bring our cell phones. We're allowed to bring our cell phones in, but they must be off. I can tell you today, they seized someone's cell phone because they were checking it. And
so it's not a technical problem in terms of not televising it. It's a policy problem. And the people who so far control it have decided they don't want criminal trials in Maryland televised.
It's another whole debate. I mean, if you wind up with more of a circus because the cameras are on and everybody's playing for the for TV time.
Hard to imagine more of a circus than this.
Yeah, absolutely. Baltimore City, this is Jeffrey. Jeffrey, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Jack. My question was that why was it that those two officers who we originally see arresting Mr. Gray, are they two of the six that's being tried, and why would they not try those two gentlemen? Why did the prosecution not try those two gentlemen first?
Which two?
The two
arresting officers.
Arresting
great.
officers.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. Well, again, it's the prosecution has made this decision. Once Judge Williams decided that each of the defendants were going to be tried individually, the prosecution gets to make that determination, and it may have as much to do with their need for his testimony in the other trials as anything else.
There was a suggestion, at least from some legal scholars, that part of it was to get someone to turn in this case, i.e. become state's evidence, because they, for whatever reason, maybe they made a determination that the punishment would be too much. They felt as though Porter was one because he was not an arresting officer, and the other is the lieutenant who was on staff. You know, it's very interesting. These are the two African American officers. There's one other one, Cesar Goodson, who is the driver, that they felt as though these might be the easiest to turn into state evidence.
Baltimore County, this is Jake. Jake, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
Hi, Jeff. I appreciate this topic tonight. What I'm asking is, how is it possible that these police officers could get a fair trial when you look at how much publicity you have columnists in the newspaper talking about giving jurors a prompt of how to answer questions when they're asked? You've got a situation where a judge, prior to coming here and being a judge, was on a crusade around the United States as a prosecutor of police officers who most of the time were found guilty.
Jake, let me get to that point. Thank you very much for the phone call. The Sun reported, interestingly, over the weekend, right before the trial started, that the judge had previously served as a federal prosecutor specializing in police misconduct cases. That's not going to matter.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's fair to characterize it as a crusade on his part around the country. I really don't think that does justice to the important work that he was doing.
And most judges were at some point, they were prosecutors or they were public defenders.
Right. Let me ask Charles this. You were in the courtroom today. My understanding is you could hear the protesters outside in the courtroom, and I assume the jurors could hear them?
Yes. There was a loud roar from the crowd around about 9:30 or so. I found out there were only 20 protesters out there, but they had megaphones and stuff like that.
Is that an issue?
Well, I think so. I mean, I think that puts a burden on any juror, no matter how fair they want to be. And I'm surprised that they allowed that
Part of it was, I know the defense went to the window to look out to see if he could see them, and he couldn't. So that was part of it, and it was kind of muffled. But it was where I was sitting is in the jury box, and I could definitely hear the noise from outside. But I don't think that this judge, who has ruled both for the prosecution and against the prosecution, as well as the same thing for the defense, he's cutting it right down the line. He's not trying to play favorites. And understand this.
Is there anything? I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Was there anything he could do about protesters outside?
Well, they can serve basic line. They don't need to let them be right on the corner, right underneath the courtroom window.
Well, the barriers around the court are that you cannot protest in front of the courthouse. These were people who were across the street. Understand? And the sound travels up a wall.
Let's squeeze in one more call. Baltimore County, this is Joe. Joe, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Hey, over the years, many people have been given a rough ride in the van in the police paddy wagons, and they have not been strapped. And if these fellows are going to be prosecuted, which I think they should be, then they are to go through their records like they do with other things and prosecute everyone that gave a man a rough ride for like attempted manslaughter, because they were all available to be hurt the way he was. It just happened he got hurt, so they're going to charge them, but not the others.
All right, thank you for the phone call.
The city of Baltimore has paid out at least 2 cases as it relates to the term rough ride, which is essentially you put an individual in the back of a van, you drive them around, you do a lot of stops and starts. And there was a memo that went out to the police department to say that you must strap individuals in. In fact, the defense tried to get that memo thrown out. And the judge said, no, we're going to keep that in. And I think part of it is this idea that somehow you didn't follow directions and you can't make up the rules as you go along.
One of the things I think you see is that Judge Williams is going to let the lawyers try their cases. He's going to give the prosecution a fair amount of latitude to prove its case, and he's going to let the defense latitude in order to defend the case.
Before we go, you're confident he's going to get a jury seated this week?
No, I'm not confident about that at all. I think we'll have to wait and see.
We'll see what happens. Andrew Levy, Charles Robinson, thanks for being here.
Great.
Appreciate it. Just ahead, the NAACP perspective on the case with more of your calls.
The pleasure of your company is requested for a Downton Abbey experience on January 2nd at the Grand Baltimore. Join other Downton Abbey fans as they celebrate the final season premiere before it airs. For more details and to customize your experience, visit mpt.org/events. There's a special day coming up. It's Tuesday, December 1st. It's Giving Tuesday, a day to give back. Last year on Giving Tuesday, MPT members contributed over $5,000 to bring inspiring programs to your screen. This year, give your community the gift of public television. Contribute online now through December 1st. Visit mpt.org/Giving Tuesday and discover how good it feels to give.
We left off season 5 of Downton Abbey with so many unanswered questions. Will Lady Edith ever be happy?
Just doesn't go smoothly with her, let's face it.
Is it to be eternal widowhood for Lady Mary?
I'd rather be alone than with the wrong man.
What's going to happen next?
Please join me, Hugh Bonneville, for the answers to all these questions and so much more in A Salute to Downton Abbey.
Tonight at 9:30 on MPT2.
Tonight on MPT.
It's always a great performance when Andrea Bocelli sings, and now he'll thrill you with music from the movies. Some songs with special movie star introductions.
Love Story.
Featuring guest stars Ariana Grande, Nicole Scherzinger, and David Foster. It's Andrea Bocelli, Cinema, on Great Performances.
Tonight at 8 on MPT.
And joining us now in the studio is Tessa Hill Aston, president of the Baltimore NAACP. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Tell me your feelings as this trial gets started.
Well, I'm glad it's starting, and I'm happy that we've had a successful day today. The beginning of selection of the jurors, I was there all day, and we just wanted to move forth and let people have justice. The people outside chanting, and all they were saying is that they want justice for Freddie Gray, and that's what most people in the community are saying.
What's the level of tension in the community now?
Well, I think a lot of the tension has gone down because a lot of people are trying to help the community people, a lot of ministers. Everybody has jumped in to help. I've seen a lot of people from all walks of life to come to the community all over Baltimore, and especially Sandtown, Gilmore area, where people are doing things. And even the police are trying to engage and do some things to help soften the things that have occurred. There's a lot more to do, and it's not over, and a lot of people are still fearful, and a lot of people still need hope and help in the community.
What's the NAACP doing in that community and citywide at this point?
Well, what we've been doing ever since April, we opened up our a secondary office, the Baltimore City branch. We opened up a secondary office right in Sandtown and in the Gilmore area, and we've been doing expungements. That's the first thing that we did. A lot of the men and women have records that really could have been way off their records by now to help them with employment and housing opportunities. You can't even get in public housing if you have a criminal record. And it's things that are very minor that they could have had done. And I've talked to several lawyers and judges. When they finish the case and it gets non-processed and they say go down the hall to get the expungement paperwork, they're so happy to be free. They run out the door and they don't get it. And 3 years pass, 5 years pass, and we're doing expungement that people could have gotten it done 8 to 5 years ago.
So back in April, Freddie Gray was injured, died of his injuries, and his funeral is what touched off the period of intense unrest or rioting. If there's an acquittal in the Porter case, which just got started, do we see that again?
I hope not. I'm quite sure there are some people that are angry enough and have the personalities that they'd want to do that, but I think that people should wait and let all cases be heard, because just like any criminal activity or criminal trial, people start off as a group, as a gang, a whole lot of defendants, and I think that we cannot just watch the first case. There's 6 more, and they're not a group anymore. They're individual cases, and now everybody is split. So we have to watch all of them, and I think there's people who want to protect their communities and not see bad things happen.
Are you glad there are 6 trials instead of one big one?
I think it's easier for everybody because everybody has a different opinion, and everybody's not going to be on the same page when anything is who said what, who did what, she said, he did, and that's what's going to happen. Each lawyer and each defendant, they're on their own.
If you have a question for NAACP President Tessa Hill Aston, you can give us a call. We'll have the number on the screen, or you can tweet your questions. Twitter address is @MPT News. You mentioned the police department. How's the new commissioner doing in your view?
I think he's doing an excellent job trying to reach out to the community. He's very involved. He comes early. He stays late. He was just had police department play football Sunday in the neighborhood. They had been practicing, and it was a big game Sunday. I don't remember who won, the police or the boys in the neighborhood, but there's been a lot of outreach from all different components of the department. I meet with the police on a regular basis in the community and around Sandtown area, and we've been meeting every Thursday to talk about strategies, and we have a lot of young men from the community that's meeting with us to want to help to bring justice for the case, but also bring calm to the neighborhood.
What's your sense of the level of activity of the city police? It was said that after the riots and after the officers were charged, others on the force took a knee, as somebody said. We're less aggressive, in other words, about policing, about making arrests. Number of arrests is down, number of homicides is up. Is it getting back to normal, do you think?
I think so. I spent a lot of time on Pennsylvania Avenue in the heart of the Sandtown area, and there's police around. I got out the car the other night, and Friday evening, and spoke to a new officer, and he said he had just gotten transferred into the neighborhood, and I would consider him trying to reach the goal of being officer friendly. He was talking to people, and some young men were talking and engaging him, and everything seemed very nice, and he was working with the community. And so I think any new officer, young, and this was a young officer with less than 2 years experience, I think he is going to try, and other ones try to do things better. I know they're getting training, and I think any old officer of age and time and experience should try to engage people in a totally different way. It's not uncommon what happened to Freddie to be put in the van and driven around, and that's what's fearful of a lot of the African-American young men in that community.
We're over 300 homicides for the first time in a long time, but back in the, I guess, 80s, late 80s, when we were seeing those kind of numbers, the city had a lot more people. So on a per capita basis, this is as violent as Baltimore, or really any big city's ever been. Where do we go from here?
Well, I think we have to start with young children and let them learn that they don't need to be in the drug trade. And drugs is not new to anything in the whole United States or any neighborhood. It's just that there's more violence coming with it, and that's what's causing the problem. We shouldn't have drugs in the first place because it's really hurting families, but the problem is the violence that comes with it with such a low amount of money involved for someone's life to be taken.
Just a couple of seconds, but the idea of police officers wearing body cameras, recording interactions, I'm guessing you like that.
Yes, I think, yeah, that is very helpful. We've seen where it has helped in other cities that the camera shows actually, and that way no one can lie about what happened.
Tessa Hill Aston of the Baltimore NAACP, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us for Direct Connection. We're back Thursday with Your Money and Business. Now, for all of us here at MPT, I'm Jeff Salkin. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.